It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
Welcome back to another episode of The Nonprofits, a show where we discuss news and topics of the day with a skeptical humanist perspective. My name is Malty, and I'm here with a wonderful panel of guests and panelists, starting with our guest host, Genevieve. Welcome.
Hi, happy to be here.
Great. And from our vlogger from down under, Teo El Ateo. Welcome. You may want to check your mic, Teo. I think you might be muted. And also,
I totally was. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Secular Rarity, hello.
Hey, I'm always happy to be back. We've got some really interesting stuff today, and it's a great group of people. So
I agree. Now, I would be remiss if I did not say that this show is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and the promotion of positive atheism. So today we're going to talk about, we have 4 segments talking about Muslim women at the beach. We're going to talk about Major Taylor Greene's war on Kwanzaa. We're going to talk about some sheriffs down in North Carolina and how they want to keep the Christ in the police force. And we'll end up with a spiritual death match of a Nigerian prophet doing a wrestling match with Satan. So to begin with, I think I'll lead it off. We'll be starting out with Muslim women at the beach. So for this, the first article, we've got a couple articles here that we'll be talking about, and it comes from the BBC. It was put out on December 31st of 2021. Bangladesh women-only beach scrapped after social media outcry. So one thing that I have to say is one thing that I really enjoy about being on these panels is learning about some of the things that I would have never have come across if not for I'm looking into these things. Like I did not know that Bangladesh was East Pakistan. And I say this for a reason, in that because we're talking about Muslim women and how they need to dress at the beach, seeing how the culture has changed over the past, say, 50 years is kind of an important little piece about it. So East Pakistan, yes, Pakistan was created in 1947. East Pakistan ended in 1971 when Burma became liberated with the help of India. But that being said, a little bit of backstory. So this beach, it's the longest sea beach, sandy sea beach in the world, 140, I believe, 150 kilometers long. And the government wanted to cordon off a 120 kilometer long beach, and the government wanted to cordon off or select 150 meters that would be only available for use with women and children. That didn't go over much with the public. Also, that part of the beach is very popular with tourists, so there's probably some economic parts of it as well. So that being said, Genevieve, you wanted to take us a little bit more and deeper into what you found out about this?
Yeah, I do. So when we're looking at this article and talking about what's specifically going on in Bangladesh, it also very much ties to what's going on in this country because like the status and the treatment of Muslim women does not exist in a vacuum. Um, Personally, I thought it was really interesting that there was this huge social media backlash about this beach in Bangladesh because the beach itself was started as an idea at the request of Muslim women who felt shy and uncomfortable and wanted to sort of have their own space to relax. And I saw that in some of the backlash that came about this, people were comparing it to the, you know, Muslim extremists who wanted separate workspaces and like an entirely segregated society based on gender, which tracks with a lot of the more extremist sects of Islam. And I feel like it was really unfair to conflate those two because, personally as a woman, I would be really happy to travel to another country and have a space that was there specifically for women just because this is coming on the heels of horrific violence against women on this beach. And so I felt a little bit conflicted sort of reading about that, and then comparing that to the backlash that just Muslim people in this country have faced. There was another article that was linked as well alongside this from the Huffington Post about a woman in New Jersey sort of, expressing her experiences being a Muslim woman who chooses to wear a burkini and 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 witnessing other women be faced with so many attacks for just dressing modestly at the beach, saying that it was unhygienic or unclean. And so when we're talking about this, I think it's important to think about how in this instance in Bangladesh, what it feels like to me is people speaking for a marginalized community and not just listening to what they want, which was a different beach. Um,
Hmm.
it's a complicated topic. There's a whole lot to say about it, and I'm really excited to hear what the rest of you have to say about it as well, because I understand that not everybody agrees with me on this.
Yeah, secular Rarity,
Secular.
you had a little bit different take on this, didn't you?
Yeah, I do. And before I go much further, I do just for everybody want to give a quick trigger warning. I am going to connect this to another terrible practice. So female genital mutilation, or FGM, is something that is often perpetuated by women. It is something that the women themselves who have gone through and who do it to other people, they fully believe that it is you stepping into their culture and their history and taking that over. And when you think about things from that perspective and you say, well, the women were the ones that were claiming that they wanted this beach so that they could feel safe. Um, the problem is, for me, that sounds too close to the women who want to continue FGM because they think it's pure. The reason that, in part, so it's worth saying that the article from the BBC was very short, so there wasn't a bunch to it. But it is worth noting that currently in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in India, in Myanmar, in a lot of these countries in this area, we are seeing a very hardcore right-wing extremist wave. I mean, this is absolutely happening in Pakistan, and the history, as Malty awesomely laid out for us, it very much is still pertinent today in Bangladesh, and just because women said, "Hey, we think this would be better for us." At first, I completely understand why we all say, "Hey, whoa, hang on. They want this beach. They want to be safe. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's listen to them." But if we dig further into this, what we're going to see is that this idea of them of women not being allowed to freely express themselves, right? This is something that is unfortunately a very, very core tenet to a lot of the individuals that practice Islam. Many people would argue it's very core to Islam itself. And I think there is a huge importance for us, exactly like Genevieve was saying. Those of us that live in the United States need to recognize that Sharia law isn't something that we're dealing with. You know, that this is not something we should not be outright discriminating against Muslims. That's silliness. That's absolutely ridiculous, people. We should have a problem with the ideology. We're not against people, we're against bad ideas. And again, even though at first we hear this and we say, you know, the women were asking for this, they wanted this. I implore people to think about it in the same perspective as if there were a group of women asking to continue FGM. Would we feel that's okay? Would we want that to perpetuate? But I know I come a little bit different on it for sure. But I think it's good to have, you know, different viewpoints on this and try to hash that out as humanists.
Yeah.
I'm about to totally disagree with you, pal. Sorry. Do you
Please, go
remember
ahead, Tim.
do you remember some episodes ago when I was complaining that American people was trying to give us Latin American people this Latin X thing that was being forced onto us? And I was like, people, if you want to know, if you want to be inclusive with Latin people, ask Latin people and don't try to impose your idea. Don't you try to be offended by other people. I feel the same here. And sorry, but in Japan, there are trains where there are cars that are only for women. And that is not discrimination. And I'm really, really sorry, Secular. But I'm going to extremely disagree with you in here because in this case, women do have a reason to ask for this and it's justified. I'm going to quote the BBC article that we have in the description. And I'm going to go with this. The women requested a dedicated beach section for themselves because they felt shy and insecure in a crowded place. Abu Sufyan, a senior official in Cox's Bazar, told AFP, the move to section off the beach also came after news of a gang rape of a woman in Cox's Bazar last week shocked the country, sparkling an outcry over women's safety in the area. This is not women asking for segregation, and this is not women saying women are inferior and men deserve to be free of us. No, this is women saying we're scared, we need protection, we deserve better than this. And for the first time ever, this extremely sexist, chauvinist, toxic masculine government is giving women what they want. And people goes against it because they don't see, oh, these are women who need protection. They see, oh, look at that. I have to feel offended because they want to create a Sharia law in that beach and they want to separate women from men. That's how we feel it. I may be totally wrong. Sorry, Marty?
Well, yeah, not just men. Well, I guess there's some ambiguity. So, I mean, the rule of dress is women should dress modestly. There is no written place where it outlines this is the type of modesty that we mean. This is the type of covering that we mean. Sometimes it is full dress, only the face, hands are visible. Some it's only the eyes. Some it's only hair. And each sect of Muslim culture has their own ideas. I don't want this to, you know, when I was looking at the other articles that are associated with this, I saw some that I thought seemed a little bit like victim blaming. Did anybody else get that as well?
And that's exactly,
yeah, the ones about
if I could just because that's exactly kind of where I come at this. And one of the people that comes to my mind right now is a woman named Anita Hill. And if you don't know who Anita Hill is and you're in the United States, I'm not going to tell you. I want you to look it up because she's an important person. And I know I'm going to butcher this quote, but she was asked about rape. She was asked about discrimination of women, misogyny, these terrible things that still exist, and is very much a part of this story in Bangladesh. And I agree with you, Teo, that was a terrible, terrible thing that occurred. But what Anita Hill said was, you can teach the women, and then you can teach the men. But if you teach the men, you don't need to teach the women. The problem is not the problem is not that we need a safe space for women. The problem is a bad ideology that permeates a society. And are we letting these why not just step up police enforcement? Why not just stop people from doing the rapes? Why do we have to segregate women and put them in a bubble to keep them away from other people? Shouldn't the men just be better?
Can't
See,
we do both?
yeah,
Sorry, G.
no, please. If I could just chime in on this really quickly. I mean, I 100% agree with you. Like, of course, I hate how, as a woman, my entire life, I'm told, oh, don't go out dressed like this, don't go to this bar, don't do this. It's like, well, why should I have to worry about this? But the reality is that we do. What you're talking about, I 100% agree on. Like, we need a massive shift in ideology and perspective. We need men across cultures, to be quite honest, to be better. But until that happens, I see no problem with us just taking measures to prevent things by saying, hey, in the case of Bangladesh, which is a far different culture than what I deal with here in America, if women say, hey, we're scared and we're worried and we just want to go for a fucking swim, yeah, give them a section of the beach if that's what they genuinely want. I wouldn't conflate that with, female genital mutilation. I almost would want to say that's a bit of a slippery slope fallacy, because we're not even talking about in the same way it was compared by some of the dissidents against this. They compared it to the men requesting separate workplaces based on the ideology of men are better than women. This is women just saying, hey, I'm scared to go about my day, and I would really appreciate it if we could just have a space where I don't even have to think about it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that, Teo, you brought up a really good point, which is sort of my the whole center of my beliefs about this is that we have Eurocentric whoever have this tendency to impose our ideas or speak for other groups without just giving them the benefit of doubt and giving them the dignity to speak for themselves and be listened to. But and I will also say, secular, you're 100% right, because at the same time we can't take cultural relativism to this extreme where we just allow anything to happen. We should never allow FGM to occur without some backlash. That is a human rights violation. But we
Mhm.
we need to be we need to be respectful. We need to treat people with dignity, and we need to allow things to be heard with some nuance.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those situations in light of the culture. If you know how to change the ideology of all of the men in Bangladesh or across the world to where this isn't an occurrence, then fuck yeah, dude, let's do it. That would be amazing. But if that's not going to happen, then we need to be pragmatic. It's not about just holding to our ideologies, it's about thinking about the lives that are impacted. And
Yeah,
that's
not
really just
only
what I think.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, we have more than one problem in here. Right now, we need a solution to these women being raped by gangs. So that beach is a solution. But yeah, the general solution should be changing the ideology. But we can do both. We cannot just decide, no, let's not protect the victims. Let's first change the whole system. Let's go
My,
for the immediate one.
my
And this one was, oh, sorry, secular?
no, you're just fine. I was cutting you off. It's just that my issue is I don't think that this is protecting people. I don't think it protects anybody by doing this. I think this plan of action was one that ultimately perpetuates a system where women will be hurt more. And that's why I was against it. Now, I could be incorrect on that, of course, and I think we've done a really good job of laying out different viewpoints. My only suggestion for people would be to look up a phenomenal activist by the name of Masia Alinejad. She is wonderful, and she collects stories and videos of women being harassed for wearing hijab improperly, not in the right place, whatever it is. But these stories need to be heard, and we need to continue having these conversations respectfully, even if we disagree, because I think that's the only way we get any progress on the matter, right?
Yeah, I think you come from a nice place, Marty.
There's a
Sorry, Marty.
That's okay. Moving a little bit on into like the Huffington Post article, where they're talking about how clothing or swimwear that is sun safe or modest, full coverings, is something that is becoming more available to women. So that's, you don't have to wear a one piece that shows all your legs and all your arms, all your cleavage. You can actually, at this point in time, Muslim or Jewish women, or even I think they were saying that the Mormons were actually looking towards buying some of these sun safe apparel. That so the attention is where it's supposed to be, having fun swimming, and it is more about that and less about showing off what maybe you don't want to show off. So I did see that there is some examples of people wanting to wear, either for religious reasons, modesty reasons, or sun protection reasons, swimwear that is more covering. I don't find there should be a problem with that. However, there have gotten backlash from some swimming pools or beaches. People have, here in the US, it seems like, have been somewhat pushing back about modest swimwear. Well, why is that?
It must be terrible to be a woman, because I know that as a Latino, I'm whiter than most people, so I get sunburned really easily. And I always go with long sleeves, long pants, and a hat to the beach. And I've never been told anything. So it must be awful to be a woman in the USA. And if you go dressed like that, you're going to be harassed because you're too modest or something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's a part of it that's just the same old song and dance, right? Which is something's different to us. It's outside of our norm. But I also think, and it's important that we point this out, the anti-Muslim bigotry that exists, you guys. Like we may not agree that Muhammad is the final prophet, but that in no way, shape, or form is now freedom to just discriminate against people. Why are we kicking somebody out of a pool for being completely covered? If they were completely naked, like, okay, if they just completely stripped down entirely, then I get that. But that's a problem. Like, hey, there are kids around. What are you doing? But
these are this is swimwear that is
right.
Made out of the same material as all other swimwear is made out of. It's not like they're stripping down to their underwear and jumping in. It's which I've seen people do, public places.
We have beaches for that.
Yeah.
Malty's been skinny dipping, I bet, you guys.
So
is that true, Malty?
After the show.
Yeah.
After the show.
Yeah, that'll be an after show. What I think is really, and I didn't even put this in my notes. This is really something that just came to me now. So, I lived in California for years. I am a surfer, and I lived on a really cold beach. My wetsuit is rated for 40 degrees. It is a thick thing that goes right up to my chin. I have booties. I have been swimming on a beach covered head to toe. And it's not a problem. It's not a problem when I do it. It's not a problem when any of us do it. If you've got a surfboard, if you seem like an American, it's interesting that the the criticisms because people don't want to say the thing that they mean. They'll say, "Oh, that's unhygienic. That's disgusting." It's not. It's not at all. I mean, especially in a public pool. I mean, how many kids piss in a public pool? Let's be honest. Like nobody cares about any of that. It has nothing to do with the clothing. It has everything to do with the context. It's that they are not white Americans or they're not Christian. They are objectively different. It goes hand in hand with this Christian nationalism that we've seen. It goes hand in hand with this fear about the great replacement that white people will be a minority. It's absurd and it's so dangerous, which is why I speak out against Christianity because that's not being spoken out against. I often don't speak too much on Islam because it's not something that impacts me particularly. It's not something that I have a lot of experience with. There are a lot of incredible ex-Muslims who I fear for because there is a lot of danger. There is a lot of harm in that ideology. As a secular activist, I will always speak out for people to question their own beliefs, to think critically. I hope that we can get to a place beyond religion. But in the meantime, I'm not afraid of the dangers of the Islamic ideology. I am afraid for my Muslim neighbors from Pakistan to go to the beach without being harassed, or to get on a bus without being stabbed, or go to a bar without being shot. This is the reality that we're facing, and it's ironic. It's so disgustingly ironic that these Christian conservatives who who are so ready to be persecuted and fight for their nation are the ones that are being so hateful and bigoted to another religious group.
Yeah. Secular Rarity, do you have any final thoughts? And then Teo, I'll have you close it out for this segment.
I honestly think Genevieve made some fantastic points, especially at the end right there. Look, if what you're concerned about in a public pool is the hygiene of somebody else's swimwear, you might need to rethink your priorities, my friend. So,
And finally, I think that we are checking two different things. I mean, the things that are happening in the USA, it's terrible. It shouldn't happen. G's explain everything. And I know that Secular is coming from a very good point on what he said about the thing in Bangladesh. I just want to really quickly mention that over there in Bangladesh, violence against women and child marriage is still a huge problem. So when they give women this special beach, this is a step up, not a step down, as people saw it when they started criticizing it. And obviously, the situation in Bangladesh is totally different from the USA. So I totally understand that Secular comes from a good point on his heart, good side on his heart, but I think that we only disagree because of that. It's a different perspective over there, and that's it. You're awesome, guys.
Okay, thank you very much.
Love you guys.
So keep in mind, as with all of our shows, the links to today's topics will be in the discussion section below. We're also will be linking those in our Facebook. So if you actually want to get, we'll do that on Friday. So if you want to get ahead, you can actually read the articles before we actually air this episode. So don't forget to do that. And I want to thank you all, everybody here and everybody out there, because of your dedicated viewership and spreading the news of the faithless nonprofits. We have broken the 10,000 subscriber ceiling. So look above the chat window and you can now see that we can do fundraisers. And this is a great milestone. We'll be able to help out with the ACA production. We have many thanks to our veteran subscribers, and we welcome with open arms our new subscribers. Please, we would love to get from 10,000 to 20,000 to 100,000. So talk to your friends, your colleagues, let them know about the nonprofits. Our premieres episode, premiering every Sunday at 3 p.m. So help us out if you would. Also, if you're unable to catch us live at that time, it's all right. You can check us all out on the Atheist Experience Network. This is a YouTube channel where you can find all the Atheist of Community of Austin shows. in podcast form. And you can subscribe to them at tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. And you can listen to all the episodes of the Nonprofits, Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted. And if I missed any, I'm sorry. So, moving on to our second segment. Genevieve, you were going to let us know about one of our state representatives.
Yes, the best and the brightest. This controversy has to do with the wonderful Marjorie Taylor Greene. Going back to December 26th, there was a college Republicans Twitter account that tweeted a well-wishing to anybody celebrating Kwanzaa. And Marjorie Taylor Greene did not like that. She said, I quote, "Stop. It's a fake religion created by a psychopath. You aren't bringing in new voters, you're turning them away. People are tired of pandering and BS." Which is funny for a number of reasons. But before I go into that, I should say that Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal Twitter account has been suspended because of disinformation and yada yada. She does still have her congressional Twitter account, so she's not completely off the platform. But first and foremost, I am so shocked. When I read this article, I had to take a step back because I never thought that the wonderful, intelligent, charismatic, beautiful Marjorie Taylor Greene would ever tweet anything that was bigoted or flat out wrong. But alas, color me shocked.
Yeah.
Um, for the record,
Yeah.
that's a big old joke. For one thing, Kwanzaa is not a religion. Malty, you actually took some really great notes about sort of the history of Kwanzaa. If you'd like to elaborate on
Uh,
why this has happened.
yeah. So I'm wondering. So okay, a little bit of backstory. The origins of Kwanzaa. It was first brought up by a political professor wanting to combine some of the ideas from Native African religions because he felt that it's something to celebrate during the holidays. That because he felt that Christianity was the religion of the white slave owners, and so yeah, a professor Karinga, excuse me, um, did start Kwanzaa. Interesting person. He spent a little bit of time in jail. He was imprisoned for false imprisonment and bodily harm. Though he was um, released from prison earlier than his full sentence and is now a tenured professor at a large university. So there seems to be some strange things there. Karinga also is of the opinion that Jesus suffered from mental illness. He's looking at the Bibles, such as John 7:19-21, and John 10:19-20, talking about how people were thinking that Jesus wasn't, had some odd thoughts, let's say. So, quoting John 20, the crowd answered, "You demon, who are you trying to kill?" Jesus answered, "I performed one work, and all of you are astonished. None of you keeps the law. You're looking for opportunities to kill me." So again, very interesting. Green, right-wing Republican. I don't know. Her ideas. Maybe she looks into this guy a little bit, sees kind of what he's talking about, and just flips it to her way of thinking. I don't know how to say what
That
anything
was
more to say.
that was a really nice way of
Yeah.
saying all that, Malty.
Yeah.
You are overly nice, Malty.
I try to
So,
avoid conflict whenever I can.
ooh, well, okay. Can I bring conflict in here? Because when she's calling religion a fake religion created by a psychopath, guys, how can we break the news for her that she's describing Christianity and most religions actually? Because, oh, come on, have you read the Bible? No, nobody who's sane could write that. And yeah, she's describing most religions, and well, something that I think some of you wrote it, but or I read it in the Wikipedia. I don't remember, but she's kind of right that it's not a religion because it's not a religion. It's just a way of celebration. It's as when this doctor started it, it was just a was it a doctor? Anyways, it was just an option to Christianity, an alternative, so people could celebrate something that is beautiful, that keeps you together with your family, but that of course was not brought by the slave owners that made your whole family suffer during in past, or your ancestors suffer. So I found Kwanzaa, now that I was able to read and learn about it, a very nice and beautiful tradition. uh, I think that the original name is like Kwanzaa, and they added an additional A, so it has the seven letters, so it's more 7 days of the week and all of that, and it's quite a beautiful celebration. I loved it. I wish I could celebrate it one day. So yeah, this person Green, she seems to be full of hatred towards others in order to say something like that about a celebration that makes others happy.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the first things that struck me about this article. Although it also strikes me pretty regularly, just hearing most things from this representative of ours. Um, it seemed to me the insecurity was so obvious, and I couldn't possibly imagine being so uncomfortable um, with somebody else congratulating a third party about a celebration that I don't fucking participate in. Like, I just couldn't imagine being so upset about that I felt the need to like lash out, especially at it was a college Republican group. Like it was a group that was saying like, "Hey, we're trying to be inclusive and we understand that there are humans in our group that don't 100% see eye to eye, and we want to kind of it just it was it was a lot. But also the other thing that comes to my mind is that moment in A Princess Bride where he keeps saying inconceivable, inconceivable, and then Mandy Patinkin just turns and he says, why do you keep saying that word? I don't think you know the meaning of that word. So, Marjorie, both Merriam and Webster are freely available. You can find them. They're wonderful people, and they will be happy to give you definitions of any word that you are confused about. So, for pandering, you will be looking in the P section. So,
I am so glad that you brought out that joke. That was beautifully done. This show is not sponsored by either Merriam or Webster,
we are not.
but I do want to talk a little bit about what Malty brought up about the origins of Kwanzaa, because I guess I have a lot of feelings about it, because Doctor, I'm so gonna butcher his name, and I am so sorry. My name has been butchered. I hope that we have a little camaraderie, but Malana Karenga, he had a history starting these organizations. He was part of Black liberation movements, and we're talking about in the 60s. So absolutely, like, yes, please, please, like, this is so necessary. um and at one point, one of the organizations that he started, which was called, I don't know if it was US Organization or Us Organization, they sort of splintered from the Black Panther Party because they disagreed on some ideas about Black nationalism. And they actually got into some shootouts and some fights, which were then exacerbated by the FBI, because they sent different letters to each organization pretending to be the other one, it's sort of inciting this violence. And that is just one instance of many instances in the last 400 years prior to this country even being a country, in which white people in power have degraded and just terrorized black people. And so the idea of Kwanzaa, putting Dr. Karenga aside, because I do have a lot of issues with some things in his past, not just speaking about the charges that he was arrested and imprisoned for, which he denies, but also, his ties to the new Black Panther Party, which is considered a hate group. There's a lot there that I don't necessarily agree with, but I completely and wholeheartedly understand and admire his reasons for starting Kwanzaa. I mean, when we're talking about the plight of African Americans in this country, like their traditions, their roots, their language, their religions, their countries of origin, all of that knowledge was stolen from them when they were taken from their land. And I think that anything that we can do to celebrate Black culture in this country, because they literally built this country, I think that's phenomenal. And the last thing that I really want to say about it after all of it is that it's funny that Marjorie Taylor Greene would tweet something so stupid, because Kwanzaa is not a religious holiday. It's literally just a celebration of Black culture and bringing back those roots that we chopped from them when we stole them and enslaved them. But she was fighting against a tweet by the college Republicans. And I will call out Republicans, and I will also call out Democrats to say it's cute and it's nice that you tweet celebrating Kwanzaa, but it's not like any of you are actually putting towards like policies that uplift Black Americans, because we're not separated from this issue. Like like Black people in this country are still horribly oppressed and deal with systemic racism every day, and there are real things that we can do. There are economic and criminal justice and social policies that we can implement to change this, but instead it's just, oh, happy Kwanzaa, everybody. And she has the audacity to get mad at even that. I wish I were surprised, but alas.
Malty, Teo, do you guys just want to let Genevieve run the rest of the show by herself? She's killing it.
Oh,
Wow.
stop.
Totally
I think-
I
awesome.
have things to say.
Well,
Please.
I think that last little bit that you said there is really important about there are some good aspects and there are some bad aspects, both the individual and the history related to it. But that should be what our goal is, right? As individuals that are really interested in trying to better society, not just for ourselves, but everyone, not just for our tribe, not just for our group, but for all of us. And if that's what we're here to do, then yeah, let's parse out the good and the bad and let's chat about it and try to get more of that good. But yeah, just once again, I have to say, oh, come on. Getting mad about somebody else congratulating Senator
Yeah.
Hall. Come on. It's just silly. Oh.
I
Playing
guess
to her base, I would say. I think we're there. There might be a few spots here today where we'll be talking about Christians feeling persecuted. This being one of them.
yeah, totally. I guess
Big
my
two.
final message could be, politicians, please don't just remember Black people during Christmas saying Happy Kwanzaa and during Juneteenth. Uh, they are alive there, living in your country the whole year. Please do something about some of the terrible situations that they had to go through. We have been talking about many of those situations in here. I don't even remember the names right now, but people keep getting killed, discriminated. Certain white people, I'm not going to use certain words, but call on Black people just because they are walking on the street. And that shouldn't be happening in a first world country, in any country. It shouldn't happen anywhere. So please, people, do something about it, please, and stop doing stupid stuff like complaining that other people are remembering other people. Like, it's no, I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to say you're totally right, guys. Whenever you complain about other people, telling other people celebrate your things, it reminds me of those straight guys who are complaining that gays are going to marry. Is that jealousy? What's wrong with you people?
Well, The last two things I'll say is that if you don't say Merry Christmas, you're committing a hate crime against white Christians. And
Nice.
for everybody out there, whether you're the college Republicans or Joe Biden's presidential account or anybody, don't just tweet about it, be about it.
Actions. Yes. Very good. Okay. So moving on. So right now we're going to take a small break in our conversation. So if you hadn't tuned in to the other ACA shows last week, here's a little bit of what you missed.
To start off with, what's got you turned on this week?
Oh, well, aside from Timothy Chalamet every day.
Every day.
Yeah, I would be happy to be abandoned in a desert with him anytime.
Well, I definitely don't trust the Canadian government, Aaron. I just want to let you know, you guys are just a mining corporation in disguise.
Yeah,
And that is my stance.
And on Christmas Eve, the family beats the log with sticks and sings a song that translates to, if you don't crap well, we'll beat you with a stick.
Someone could in the future could look back at New York City and they could find a Spider-Man costume.
Exactly.
And then look at the Spider-Man comics. And that Spider-Man costume is not evidence that Peter Parker fought Dr. Octopus on the Brooklyn Bridge.
God wasn't enough for God. God needed more than God. That's what you're saying. God wasn't enough for himself.
The prime disappointer.
The prime disappointer.
That was
Very nice. Very nice. Yes. So moving on, third segment here. Secular Rarity is going to lead us in on this. It's coming from the Christian Post. We're talking about FFRF and a North Carolina sheriff. Secular Rarity.
So this is another one of those moments that we get to really talk about the mission of the ACA and separating church and government. This is, as we've talked about here on this episode and many episodes in the past, this is something that continues. And those of us out there that are not comfortable with this, we need to make sure that we continue to fight against this and make sure that, religion and government are separate. So what we have here is a North Carolina sheriff in the Columbus County area. So there was a bit of a post on Facebook, as so many things are these days, where the sheriff is standing there in front of this wall that has this fun Bible verse on it, and it's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthen me. Now, obviously, our good friends over at FFRF, the Freedom from Religious Foundation, they had some problems with this. I think we can all probably see why, and they have requested that it be taken down. Now, for me, the part that I thought was the most telling was in a response. The sheriff says, quote, "Before we execute a search warrant or any service that puts our people in immediate harm's way, we always go to the Lord with a group prayer. Always." So I think that really encapsulates what the issue that FFRF was really trying to put out there. So North Carolina may have a lot of Christians. It may be 98% Christian. But funny enough, that would leave 2% of people that aren't. Meaning, when we are actively invoking Christ before executing the basic job of our government, which is keeping its citizens safe and secure, when we're doing that by specifically invoking any religion, that's a problem. That's discriminatory towards people. And truly, this is something that is so frustrating for me, because I live in an area that is very, very heavily Christian. And I know that it influences the way that officers respond to things. And that concerns me because I don't want somebody to be treated differently because they're a Christian if they're in need. I don't want somebody to be treated differently if they're a bad person and they're of any particular religion, right? We should all have the same security and safety in this country despite our beliefs. So it kind of seems like to me, and I always want to hear what everybody else has to think, but it kind of seems like to me that the sheriff is missing the point here. What do y'all think?
I agree.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's doing is unconstitutional. It's actually an unconstitutional religious display. I know this because the article mentions that he got a letter from the staff attorney, F. Freedom from Religion staff attorney, and yeah, it's an unconstitutional religion display, and this guy goes and starts defending it because apparently for him it's more important to push his own religion rather than to obey the law and do his job in a proper way, as you mentioned, secular. So it's terrible, and yeah, I agree with you. It's totally discriminatory.
Yeah, Genevieve, you had some thoughts on the persecution of these
Oh gosh.
Christians.
Yeah. Well, I mean, doesn't this just tie into the last two articles that we talked about, and also kind of everything that we have to talk about on this show, which is that in America there is this culture of Christians that are just yearning to be persecuted. And honestly, so my favorite quote from the sheriff in this article was, he said, "The Bible verse was placed on the wall after I took office. It was paid for with private funds, not with county funding. The verse is one of my favorite Bible verses, and it seemed fitting for all of the adversity that I have had to endure." And
all the adversity I had to endure.
exactly,
I
yeah.
mean,
I'm sorry. What adversity does this guy have to endure as a white Christian man operating as the sheriff of an entire county in the Bible Belt? Like I have to think about, like, what adversity is he talking about? Is he talking about all of the backlash that the police have faced for their complicity and direct involvement in institutional racism? Like, it's one of those instances that I've seen so many times with these Christian extremists where they're just saying, like, "Oh no, like, people don't like me because I'm oppressing other people. I feel so oppressed." And it's
yeah,
just, it's so ridiculous. I don't care where, like, I don't care who paid for this plaque. Like, if it's displayed in a public government building out in the open, then we have a problem. If it's his favorite, he can put it on his desk. That's fine. I don't care. That's your desk. You got pictures of your kids. You can put your, I do not give a shit. But as soon as secular Rarity pointed out, you're actually doing these prayers before you actually, like, do these search warrants and, like, forcibly enter people's homes. I feel like Jesus would have said, like, hold the phone for a minute. Like, really? This is what you thought that I wanted? I mean, no pun intended, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the social structure, it seems like, from what he is saying, what the sheriff is saying, when he's talking about, we've had 180 overdoses in Columbus County and drug and violence are killing our youth. We need more Jesus and less politics. Is that they have a failed social safety net going on in that county. These people, what they're thinking is going to be helpful is not working, and I think it's becoming more and more obvious, and so maybe that's why he's so up in arms. He has refused to acquiesce to the Freedom from Religion Foundation's asking for them to take this down. I guess now it's going to go into the courts. But I did like, and I would like to quote the co-president Annie Laurie Gaylor of the FFRF when she sent where she published a reply to the sheriff saying that he would not take it down. The Columbus County Sheriff's Office must serve all citizens equally, whether Christian or non-Christian. She asserted a blatant Christian message in a law enforcement division sends a message of exclusion, just like you said, secular.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think you made a really good point right there, Malty, which is the underlying problem here is that the ideology that they are trying to further, the idea they say what'll fix it is just more Jesus in everybody's heart, but that is the exact thing causing the problems. And that I think that's a great point. They are trying to fix this poisoning with more poison, and that's just not what happens, guys. We have science-based information that tells us what are the better methods to getting people off of hardcore drugs, what are the better methods for stopping these, various types of violent crimes. And funny enough, it's not Jesus, it's never been Jesus, and more Jesus is not going to help.
Part of the harms of religion. It convinces you that is the only way out. And sorry, Kayuji. So it convinces you that it's the only way out of your problems and it's the only way to solve things. When we know that, as you said, it's not working. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't matter how much you pray, your prayers accomplish nothing. So please do your job and stop trying to push your religion onto others. I don't know what you were going to say, G. Sorry.
No. I was actually about to say, Teo, I really want to hear what you have to say about this. But all three of you have brought up really fantastic points, which is something that I've witnessed in these very conservative, like insular Christian communities. That there's this distrust of worldly ideas. I mean, that's why Christian universities exist. It's because those secular universities are full of those liberals that are going to introduce you to Satan and, like, just be the whole idea. Really, what it comes down to is that they think that every single thing that you would ever need to know is contained in the Bible. That is the be all end all of information, and anything that is outside of that, that is worldly. That is not what we're about. And so when you have somebody like that in power, in the government, in a position in which it would be really fucking good to have some nuance about, I don't know, sociology and, like, socioeconomic issues and the ways that crimes are influenced by society and poverty and everything else, when it's important to have an understanding of just how intersectional issues like crime and violence and drug use are. It's so maddening to see somebody just say, well, you just need Jesus, because, as he said, that doesn't work. In fact, I would even go so far to say, as having your basis of your ideology center around, we are all terrible bad people and Jesus will save us anyway, and you can always come back and repent to Jesus. I've often seen that just gives people a pass to do terrible things and then just say, oops, sorry, love you, Jesus. It gives no position of accountability. We see this with the Duggars, we see this with all of the horrible crimes that are committed by churches. It does not work, and it'll never work.
Good point.
I guess we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a little more time we could spend on this, but if we have said all we need to say about Jody and his Christian way of leading his sheriff's department, I guess we can move on. Anyone else have any final thoughts?
The only thought that I have is really this would be a fantastic moment, right, for a police department in the United States to come out and open their arms and say, you know what, we were wrong. Maybe we were a little bit exclusionary. Maybe we were a little bit wrong. and open up to the community as a whole. I think that would be such a powerful message, and it's so needed right now, and it would make such an impact. And so truly this is a moment that, because I would love if hey, don't get rid of the Bible verse, just throw up a really nice verse from a bunch of different religions. Throw up some well-known secular thinkers that also have something that's beautiful, and not as divisive, or paint a mural of the damn citizens in your city for goodness sake. I mean, there are so many wonderful things that you could do, and it's a shame that they're not taking that opportunity.
I wish
Good
it were
point.
surprising. I think back to, when I was a kid in elementary school in America, and we're all celebrating how this is a melting pot with opportunities for everybody, and it doesn't matter what your country of origin is. We're all united under this idea of like the American system of progress and democracy. But then as you grow up, you learn that that's just not the reality in this country at all. And that's exactly why we have to be here doing this. It's a sad thing to recognize, and we should do better and be better.
And finally, about the persecution thing, it seems that Christians really want to be persecuted. They want to feel persecuted, and they behave in the worst possible way. So when people tell them, hey, don't be awful people, they are going to say, you see, I'm being persecuted because I cannot be myself and I cannot talk in the name of Jesus, when they clearly use the name of Jesus to discriminate others and pass awful laws and do horrible, horrible stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. Enough said about that. And now we'll be moving on to the country of Nigeria. Teo, you have, can you lead us in? Who's in
This
what
is my
corner?
time to shine. So yes, guys, I'm going to introduce you to something really, really amazing. Because tonight we have the fight of the century of the millennial. On this side, weighing over 5,000 years worth of pain and suffering, the undefeated Lord of Darkness and Lies in person, Satan! Woo! And on this other side, weighing over 88 kilos of lies and scams, according to me, I may be wrong, the supposedly absolute champion of the spiritual world, Chukwuemeka Ohanamere. And guys, can you believe that this fight is going to totally happen? But you cannot see it, and you have to believe that Chukwuemeka Ohanamere, he totally won the fight. You didn't see that recorded, but he totally did it, guys, behind some doors. And yeah, obviously he won, and he's the new champion of the absolute spiritual realm or spiritual world. So yeah, I'm not saying, oh, another African preacher who is scamming people. No, obviously, apparently, he's the undisputed new champion of the wrestling world. Because also you should know this. This guy is known as the wrestling pastor because he tends to hit people with chairs in order to heal them. So obviously the next obvious step was just to fight Satan and defeat the Lord of Lies on his own realm. So I guess, guys, we are free to sin now. We have nothing to worry about. Satan was defeated.
So if I understand correctly, this guy just like walked into his church with like a heavyweight champion belt and said, "Hey guys, I won this in a fight against Satan. It was totally awesome and I crushed him. Mm-hmm. Celebrate me."
You understand it correctly, I think. Yes, that is what happened.
It's so crazy. I feel the need to clarify. Like, okay, this is really what this is really what we're talking about. Like, this is really something that happened.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, please go ahead and look at ghgossip.com. Down below, there'll be a link to the article. So how he claims to have defeated Satan in an international spiritual wrestling match. Yeah, this I thought that was when Little Ass X made that video, when he took Satan down. That was the beating of all time. And And now Jume goes to win the heavyweight title from Beelzebub. I don't get it. Who's the referee? That's what I wanted to know.
Obviously, it was him himself. He totally crushed Satan, and Satan was on the floor, obviously. I mean, how else can he decide that he has won the battle, right? The fight, the wrestling match. Guys, please go. Oh, sorry. Go, Secular. I have a lot to talk about this guy. So
no,
please.
I was just gonna say, honestly, I'm not surprised. I know some people out there may be hearing this and think, wow, I really would have thought Satan would have done better. Satan has spent a few years in the mixed martial arts arena now. I'm sure this is common knowledge to those of us that follow. But he's really stopped focusing on grapples lately. If this was a boxing match or Satan's actually gotten really into golf lately. So anybody want to try their hand at that? But no, it's silly. This is just silliness. And I mean, imagine if I walked into my work tomorrow with a belt and was just like, hey, so met the Loch Ness Monster. Totally great monster and all. But then I kicked his ass and won this heavyweight belt. Like nobody would take me seriously.
Yeah.
Well, you're not a priest.
Maybe that's the problem. Yeah.
You're not a prophet who hits people with the chairs to heal them. That's right.
Terrible. Okay, G, because I want to talk about his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, no. I make jokes, but it's really not surprising. I mean, what's the big difference between this guy saying, "Yo, I totally crushed Satan. It was a smackdown of a century. Like, if only there were a pay-per-view." Like, what's the big difference between that and Joseph Smith saying, "Oh my gosh, I got these golden tablets, but you can totally never look at them. And oh no, they're not here because the angels took them back to heaven. Oh, rats, you just gotta believe me." And then going back a little further, what's the difference between that and Paul, the Apostle Paul, being like, "Hey, Christians, I know I just spent a lot of time like totally murdering and torturing all of you, but I was like on the Damascus Road and I saw a vision of Jesus and he told me exactly what you guys should do. So boom, I'm in charge now." Like,
hold
real.
up. You're not saying some of this might be made up, are you?
I mean, if we want to go with Occam's razor, it's the easiest explanation.
Probably.
Jesus totally rose up from the dead. Yeah, that's why his body's not there.
But what I find most interesting is that like we see this all the time. I mean, I've lived in cities. I have walked past so many people shouting on the corners saying that they are the son of God. And we as a society often I mean, they don't have churches or homes. They're mentally ill. They are houseless. In society, it feels like if you claim to be one of these prophets and have these massive hallucinations of God, you're either treated as less than human, or you're given a church and a cult, and like it just blows my mind. It seems like the more charismatic you are, the more likely it is that you're going to end up with a lot of power and influence and less likely to end up on the street. And I feel bad for the victims, for the people who follow them. And I say that regardless of whether or not they genuinely believe in what they're saying, or if they're just con artists. Like I think this guy is, and like Joseph Smith totally was. Jury's still out on Paul.
Yeah. Teo, you wanted to go about talk about this guy's Wikipedia?
Yeah, because we in here before we have already talked about other African scammers. Apparently, it's way too common over there. People for some reason get deceived. I don't know if easier or they have different approach that they are going to believe anything. Do you remember this guy who buried someone because they were going to revive them and kill them? Anyways, if you check the Wikipedia page of this guy, he has a huge history of being unorthodox. not only healing people by hitting them with chairs. He had been accused of stagging some miracles. Sadly, for the person who told everybody about that, he cursed her, and she got a disease. So now everybody believes the curse. So it's very, very sad. And yeah, the guy said that he would never forgive her, he would never let her be healed, and that he was going to make sure that every single member of her family got under the same curse. So there you have that Christian love to the others. His whole service is a mess. He used profound music, profanity, awful music. He steps on the money that people throw at him. He was married with the daughter of an infamous black magician. He said something about for the former prime minister of, I'm going to butcher this, Aaron Dizogu. He claimed that he was insignificant and that he had achieved nothing substantial. He made fun of people from a place that said that it has nothing important, no millionaires. And the most important thing, he threatened to kill anyone writing negative things about him, because obviously he has spiritual powers and he's going to kill us all, especially me, because I wrote this and I'm saying this about him. And he's going to kill us, especially me, spiritually. So guys, if I die, it's because this African guy who defeated Satan on wrestling.
Teo, you're just dying a little bit inside. That's all.
Well, that already happened, so nothing to do there.
Yeah,
We've all been dying. No, please.
Go, yeah, please.
I know. I was just gonna say we've all been dying since we were born. So it's how soon that happens is whether they can claim that it was God or not. I don't know.
Oh, I have to tell you, in my current quest of becoming a digital god, because that's a total thing, guys. I have predicted my death. I'm going to die, and everybody can know this. In the next 100 years, I'm going to die, and this is a prophecy that you're going to see 100% fulfilled. I'm totally telling the truth here. I'm a prophet, guys, so respect me here. Respect me. Give me your money.
Yeah, it saddens me and it worries me when again and again. Was it last month we were talking about the pastor in Jamaica who on his way to the court to be tried for murder, got in a car accident and died. And then before that, in South Africa, I think you were mentioning it, the gentleman who had claimed that he was the reincarnation of Jesus, and so wanted to be buried alive, and then he would rise again. He did not. This is just
shocking.
I don't know. It is how much incredulity is there in the world for all of or credulity, I should say. Incredulity, not enough. Credulity, way too much.
And I think that's
please.
It's a good point you're going to here, which is it is silly and we all laugh about it, and honestly we'll all probably go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow morning and remember it and be like, oh my gosh, that is silly, and giggle once more. But the harm is real, people. The harm is palpable, it's tangible, it's right here, it's happening. Because the first thing is your pastor walks in with a heavyweight belt that he just bought at some toy store, and he says, I beat up Satan, hooray. And then you go, oh, that's so great, Jesus. And then he says, and by the way, there are demons all over the city, but don't worry, I'm protecting you because of Jesus. And you go, oh, that's fantastic. And then he says, and actually the demons are in that person and we need to go get them. And
they kill the person.
Right. And we have to be vigilant on this. I think it's worthwhile to laugh and poke fun and let off some steam, but also remember the seriousness that does come from stuff like this.
Personally, I get very, very worried. Sorry, G, I keep cutting you off.
No, not at all.
Okay, I get extremely worried today I started, I'm not giving names, so I'm not promoting, but I started a show similar to this where I speak with people about interesting stuff that happens, pero en español, in Spanish. And we were talking about something very similar. There in Costa Rica, there was this Peruvian woman who is a pastor, and she said that there was a meteorite that was going to kill everybody who didn't go to the mountains, and that there were going to be a lot of earthquakes, and people panicked and they went to the mountains, and then nothing happened, and she ran away from the country, and people keep defending her. Instead of holding her accountable for what she did, people keep defending her. It's awful. It's terrible. People, what do you need to stop believing these stupid things? What do you need? So, yeah, that's what worries me so much.
The last thing that I really wanted to say was I wanted to do just a little bit of a correction on something that I said maybe 10 minutes ago, or really more just sort of elaborate on it. It seems like there's really two plausible scenarios in situations like this, which is one, there is a person in power telling people what to do and they genuinely believe what they're saying, or they're con artists and they're doing all of this for power. And in both instances, I said that I truly feel sorry for the people who believe them and the people who follow them, because it is very dangerous. But also, if they genuinely believe what they're saying, then they are also the victims as well. Like they don't have that agency. If they are 100% sure that they are telling the truth, then really, if anything, they're sort of the victims of our whole society that says that believing untrue things is totally normal and rational. And it is funny. I mean, it's funny that this dude literally bought a toy belt and said, "Yo, I just beat up Satan." Like that's crazy. Never mind the fact that like Satan as an individual is not even biblical when you go into the Old Testament. Like Satan's a description. It's not a name. There's no dude named Satan. But I digress. It's just it's really sad, and there are very real consequences across the board. And that's anything from somebody literally burying themselves alive to other people thinking that it's okay to harass women on beaches because they believe the wrong god, or a sheriff arresting you and not treating you fairly because you've got a Darwin sticker on your car. I mean, it all comes back to the same thing, which is that these beliefs, they when you believe things that aren't true, you will believe almost anything. It also goes back to, who is it, Voltaire, who said that those who make you believe absurdities will make you commit atrocities. I don't want to commit a slippery slope fallacy, but it's all connected, and that's why it's so important that we talk about this stuff and encourage free thought.
The final thing, these type of people who convince you of silly stuff, they propagate this agenda anti-science, because science is kind of going against their beliefs and all of that, are partly responsible for the huge anti-science movement that we are seeing nowadays, and that has us in this not very good situation nowadays. So yeah, it's all connected. It's a huge snowball of harms of religion over harms of religion over harm that end up harming all of us, not only believers who are going to fall for that BS, but we, the ones who don't believe, we're also victims of those people believing and taking actions against us and against everybody else who either believes something different than them, or that they do stuff that harm us, such as keep propagating COVID, for example.
Yeah. Good luck dealing with a pandemic or climate change when people think God is in control. What were you gonna say, Secular?
My final thoughts on it, really, I just want to speak directly to Satan, and I want to say, you don't get discouraged, okay, man? Okay? You've put in a lot of work. It took you a long time to get here. You had one bad match. Get back in the ring, bro. I'm looking forward to round 2. Satan all the way.
Okay.
Next time, just record it, Satan.
All right. Final thoughts for the episode, everyone. You have anything that you would like to leave our listeners and viewers with? Secular,
What do you think?
I'll let you start.
I think, this show is so valuable, and us getting together regularly and having these conversations, even when, maybe even more so when we don't agree, right? Because at no point in any time did any of us yell at each other. Nobody cursed anybody out. We all hashed out ideas, and we're gonna keep working on it. And I know the the four of us here, and hopefully everybody out there, read the articles, read them again, and go do more research, and then come back and hang out with us next week. That's all I got.
Teo, final thoughts?
Satan, anything to say about your defeat? He has nothing to say about that, guys. But in all seriousness, I loved talking with you guys. You're all awesome, and the topics that we saw today are pretty interesting, guys. So please, as Secular said, check them in the description, and yeah, form your own opinions, people. Thank you for inviting me, Malty.
You're welcome. Genevieve?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to really amplify what both Secular Rarity and Teo El Ateo said, which is that yes, we can have conversations and disagree, and not just yell at anybody. I don't think I cursed anybody except for maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene, and by the way, that is my own opinion. That is not a representation of any of the beliefs of the ACA. But at the end of the day, it's so important that we keep having these conversations. It's so important that we keep discussing this. And if I could leave with just one thing, I would say that there is no issue in the world that is just black and white. Everything is intersectional. Everything ties together with one another. We're living in a quagmire of social issues. And it's really important to not form your opinions very quickly without looking at the world as a whole and your place in it.
I agree. So to keep the conversation going, I would suggest and ask you all to join our social media outlets. You can find more of the Nonprofits hosts on the Atheist Community of Discord, and that would be going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord. You also can find us here, the Nonprofits, at Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP for our Facebook. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And if you do find yourself already shopping at Amazon, you can support the atheist community of Austin, by using smile.amazon.com and selecting the atheist community of Austin as the beneficiary. Please be sure to help out the ACA any way that you can. We definitely appreciate it. We also value your feedback, so if you would like to leave us a note, please do so at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And I wanted to thank you all, my hosts, my co-hosts, for putting in the time and effort and being here with me. It's always great to have these conversations, and to thank all of you out there for watching and listening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Watch The Atheist Experience live Sundays at 4:30 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTAXP and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callaxp.